Good evening, everyone. It looks like people are sort of slowly filtering in, so we'll just sort of get rolling here while everyone gets settled in. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you in advance to our panelists for sharing their time and their stories with us today. We have some amazing panelists joining us to share their personal stories of success and how the Executive MBA program helped energize their careers. First, a little teeny bit of MBA program business. So for those of you who are new to WashU, the WashU Executive MBA program is a 20-month leadership-focused MBA program. Ranked 18th globally by The Economist magazine, this program helps students to broaden and deepen their business acumen, develop and hone leadership skills, and at the end of the day, the program builds students' confidence, their networks, and ultimately their careers. We are accepting applications for our fall MBA cohort. Our online application is a very easy process. It's very straightforward. You simply go to the website, click apply, and away you go, and it'll walk you through the steps. Also, I am happy to meet with anybody one-on-one to discuss your particular interest in the program or answer application questions. I'm available at your disposal. I think I forgot to introduce myself. Yes, I did. I'm Carrie Donnelly. I am the Associate Director of Recruitment for our professional and graduate programs here at WashU Olin. And back to what I was saying. So the next cohort kicks off on August 28th. We have two final application deadlines for this year. One is June 15th and the last one is July 14th, so don't wait. And so now I'd like us to get started. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. If we can bring them up during the call, we will. If not, we'll try to get to them at the end during our question and answer portion of the conversation. But at this time, it is my honor to introduce you to each one of our panelists. First off, please meet Sakib Salman. Sakib has worked over 20 years in financial services. When he joined MBA 56, Sakib was Vice President of Mortgage Operations at Bank of America. Halfway through the program, Sakib joined Citibank as Senior Vice President and took the responsibilities of Chief of Staff and Head of Business Initiatives in their mortgage division. Sakib grew up in Karachi, Pakistan, and moved to the United States in 2001, and he lives here currently with his wife, Fatima, and daughter, Danya. And next, please meet Nancy Wilde. Nancy is currently with Accenture and works as a business strategy manager in their strategy and consulting, industrial, and mobility practice. And an engineer by training, Nancy worked at Cummins Inc. prior to taking an engineering role at Emerson that eventually led her into the supply chain area. Nancy originally hails from Northeast Mexico, but now claims St. Louis as her home, where she lives with her husband, two young daughters, two cats, and two dogs. And next is Lance Marcus Buckles. Lance currently has the privilege to be the Deputy Executive Director of Strategic Growth and Development and the Director of Real Estate for St. Louis Development Corporation. Prior to this role, he was Vice President and Director of Impact at U.S. Bank. Lance is a transplant to St. Louis and has committed his life to wealth building for people of color and those who have been underestimated. Lance is a human led by faith and a being of light for humanity. He is a husband and a proud father to 3 young adults. And finally, Tom Jenkins. Tom Jenkins is a vice president for Express Scripts and leads the team serving the Defense Health Agency and all 9.6 million TRICARE beneficiaries. Tom enlisted in the Navy in 1991 and served for over 20 years before joining Express Scripts. Tom held a variety of roles in his long Navy career that took him all over the world. Tom brought his talents to Express Scripts in 2012, and since then he has elevated through several roles that have allowed him to continue to serve the military community. Tom lives in O'Fallon, Missouri, and is married with 4 awesome daughters who I've had the pleasure of meeting. Thank you all so much for being here and for sharing your time and your journeys with us. And now I'd like to turn things over and introduce turn things over to Mary Houlihan, one of our executive career coaches here at WashU Olin, who will moderate our discussion this evening. Mary, off to you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, well, let's start with, it would be great if you could put your the mode into speaker mode. You'll see all the speakers, and that will take, that'll focus you. And Carrie, if you could take that main page down, I think it'd be better if the speakers are all highlighted on the screen so people can see them as they're talking. That would be terrific. So welcome, everybody. I am, as Carrie said, one of the 2 career coaches for the MBA program. I work with people during the program while they're about any kind of a career transition or any type of career questions, but we also work with people as alums. So it's a benefit you get ongoingly once you graduate. But today we're excited because we've got 4 members from the latest graduating class, MBA 56. And so the program is totally fresh for them. They just graduated, I think, 2 weeks ago. There was a lot of career activity, different transitions and different successes that people had. So I think you're going to get a really good exposure to the program, as opposed to talking to people who did it 10 years ago and they're telling you. So you're not going to get the long-term view of the program. You're going to get the immediate, what was the program like and how did it benefit these participants. So I'm going to ask a series of questions. As Carrie said, if you have any follow-up questions or things that we're not addressing, please put them in the chat, because we are going to have some time to get your questions answered as well. So you have a real opportunity here to deal with, to interact with people who have done this program and know exactly what would be in store for you if you were to do it as well. So I'm going to start with the first question is, tell us your story. Why did you enroll in MBA? What was your career path as you were enrolling into EMA, and how has it changed since you've done the program? And I'm going to start with Tom Jenkins, and then I'll go around robin. But Tom, if you could start.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Mary. And thanks, Carrie, for the invite. And it's great to see my classmates with me again. So thank you for the opportunity. My story is a little interesting. So I served in the military for 22 years before joining Express Scripts, and thought I had my dream job. I mean, I loved supporting the military, and I had a one-on-one with my boss, and my boss asked me, he goes, "Hey, have you heard about this executive MBA program?" And I really hadn't. It wasn't on my radar. I'm a believer in continuous learning and things of that nature, but I hadn't heard about it. And he goes, I think you ought to check it out. Your brand is very focused on the Department of Defense within Express Scripts, and we're a huge company, and we serve many other needs within our client populations. And rebranding yourself might be a positive thing. And he knew I was a veteran, and I have the Montgomery GI Bill and the post-11 9/11 GI Bill. And so I met with Carrie, and she actually encouraged me to apply for the Yellow Ribbon program. And I did, and I received my letter of authenticity that it was 100% funded. Now, truth be told, I got about 4 to 5 months in the program and discovered that the VA made a mistake, and it wasn't 100% funded. But the realization that occurred to me at that point, and this is the important part of the story, is that it was the best mistake that happened to me that I can think of. Had I known that it wasn't going to be paid for, I probably would not have joined the program. But after being in it, I recognized the value. I recognized the changes that it was making in me within my work and within my family life. It was just a tremendous journey that made the financial aspect of it all worth it. During my journey, I was promoted to vice president, and now have the opportunity to lead the entire team that supports the Department of Defense, and also work with Evernorth to start building out different strategies to expand our business within the federal market. Without this program, I don't believe I would have been nearly as well positioned to deliver that value to the organization and to my family. I'll stop there, Mary.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was great. Okay, Lance, how about you going next?
Gosh, well, my story is a little interesting because I started an executive MBA program where I used to live. And so understanding that an MBA was really important to me, I moved from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I had started a program at the University of Minnesota and wanted to be in the best program I could find in St. Louis. And I asked a number of questions around where is the place to go, what school has the brand and reputation, not only in market, but across the region. And WashU kept coming up. Began to ask questions of my colleagues at US Bank, where I was currently employed at the time. And I found that I had 5 colleagues who were undergraduates of WashU. So I engaged in the conversation with Carrie and went through the process, but it was really a wonderful experience getting connected to WashU. I was the benefactor of a grant focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion as a minority leader. So that was an exciting opportunity to cover some of the expense for the program. But coming into it, for me, it was really thoughtful around making an investment in myself and in my career. And as I stated, I started the program working at US Bank CDC, leading strategy for the 5th largest bank in the country. And through that process in this program, found a way to really start to do more of the work that I love in St. Louis specifically. And so that's what led me to make a transition to be the Deputy Executive Director of St. Louis Development Corporation, where I actually lead economic growth for the entire city of St. Louis. So it is a wonderful privilege. And I think the experience I've gained through WashU has really brought some things to perspective that allow me to lead a team of individuals who have been with St. Louis Development Corporation for over 20 years. Their excitement about service, and I have the privilege to be able to give them, I think, some new leadership light and some focus to be able to do work into the future.
Great. Thank you, Lance. Okay, Nancy, you're next.
Hi. My story is a little bit similar to Tom. I think in the beginning, I really didn't expect this to be such a rewarding experience in terms of the network that you build and the knowledge that you get. But originally, the whole purpose of me raising my hand at my corporation where I used to work, Emerson, is because I wanted to learn more about the business. Carrie mentioned in the beginning in the intros, I am an engineer by training. So I've always had roles within engineering, very technical focus and more specific to working with machines and things like that. And so I really wanted to learn more about the business, expand my horizons on the experiences that I had, and also be able to advance into the world of more corporate related and more understanding of what is the road to investment, and understanding that for the corporation at large rather than just a specific product or business. And so when I joined the program, I actually had a lot of transitions within the program. So I started out in the program when I was working for Emerson in supply chain. And then after a year of being in the program and in supply chain, I transitioned over to Emerson at another corporate role as an operations and a strategy manager. And then soon after that, I actually transitioned outside of a completely different type of work. So I started doing consulting for Accenture and started working as a business strategy manager, which clearly aligned with what I really wanted to get from the program in terms of the knowledge on the financial and ROI side, and also being more strategic rather than more technical focus. And so I think that's what I have understood and gotten from the program. And I think without having had the experience gain and the knowledge gain from the cohort and from the program itself, I don't think I would have been able or eligible to apply for the roles that I applied outside of Emerson and even within Emerson.
Excellent. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, finally, Sakib.
All right. So for me, this was a personal investment. I really wanted to do this because I wanted to be a better version of myself. So this is all about me, really. And it's so funny because I waited till my daughter, until she got into college. So my wife jokes that she has to make a lunchbox for the two of us at the same time, and she had to buy like a backpack for us. Obviously, that's a joke. But as far as time commitment goes, oh my God, this was probably the best decision I have ever made in my life. I I think, just like everyone else said, before on this, like on the Zoom chat, that without the knowledge of these 26 different subjects, without the business simulations and all of that information, how can you grow? Like how can you really not know what you're really missing, right? So big improvement in knowledge, big improvement in decision making, because now I know how others think around me. I have the power of all these subjects. And in my new position right now, I mean, I'm going through a very testing time because it's so much work, and I'm so calm about it because I know exactly how everyone's thinking and what I need to do. And if I didn't have this education, I don't think I would have had the calm around me. So there's a very big value to this whole program.
Excellent. Thank you. One of the things you're seeing is that all 4 of these individuals did make changes during the program. And so you might think we did pick out people who had made changes, but we also have about 50% of this class made a change in their role during the program, which is a huge amount of transition in such a short period of time, especially, I mean, they're busy getting their MBAs. So it was kind of amazing. So, and some people weren't actively looking. So you've got all different situations of people in the program. Some people own their own companies. They weren't even in that situation. So just wanted to point out that that we did have a lot of movement in this program.
And even Mary, even in the people that didn't qualify for applying for other jobs or anything like that own their own businesses, you have stories within those that their business actually grew because they apply some of the knowledge learned during the program that helped them elevate their business. Or even like the cohort, as we had projects that we had to work on, we chose purposely those companies of our people in our cohort to create the strategic positions and ideas so that we could help them elevate their businesses.
Excellent. Thank you for adding that. Okay, so when you started the program, everybody's got their concerns going into the program. So if you could just identify 1 or 2 of your biggest concerns about doing this program, I think that would be helpful. And then how did they play out for you? So we're going to start here with Lance. You're on mute, Lance.
Oh, Mary, I knew you were going to choose me first. Gosh. I think there are a number of challenges. I think in the previous role I had at US Bank, we're all hardworking professionals, but I think I actually threw a couple of things into the mix that made the program itself, getting through the program, a little more challenging. I happened to lose a father during the program, happened to get married during the program, happened to move into the city. Right. So there's a lot of moving parts for me. And then to go from working inside of a bank to leading the deployment of over $500 million into a city creates some challenges. But I think emotionally, I think the greatest challenge for me in being really transparent was about how do I fit into an environment where I had an assumption about the skill sets and capacity of my potential classmates, and where I would sit, if you will, having a very, I'll call non-traditional trajectory coming into the executive experience. I mentioned earlier, I am a father of 3 children. My youngest son and I have been on an educational journey together. And in 2017, he graduated high school, and I finished my undergraduate degree in 2017. And so being a late bloomer, if you will, from an education standpoint, I think I felt like folks were going to be light years ahead of me. But when I got into the environment, I realized that the years of experience being a professional, been in this industry for about 30 years now, really provided that skill set for me, not only want to just participate well, but add value to my classmates. And so it didn't feel like that challenge was a challenge anymore, but it really turned into an asset of being able to contribute to my classmates from my lived experience, as well as I had an opportunity to learn some of those hard skills that some of my friends like Sakib and Tom are really good at when you think about the math and finance pieces. But I was able to bring in what I'll call some of the leadership acumen that I feel I've been able to cultivate over the years. So I felt like I had a few challenges coming in, but they really turned into assets the moment I embraced the program and realized that this was a journey, not just about the tactical mathematics, but really about being a human being and recognizing that leadership is about being a human being and recognizing that others are doing the same thing. And we all have challenges that we navigate through. So for me, it was a really exciting moment to take some really, I think, challenging things and turn them into a positive.
Excellent. And that was what you're really pointing out is the diversity of the class and how everybody has different strengths that they bring to the party, because there's a big team element to the class that you all were part of. So, okay, let's see, who's next? Nancy, what were your biggest concerns? One or two?
I think, first of all, knowing that when I was reading all the notes about the program, like the average age, experience, and everything, just kind of similar to the feeling that Lance explained, just knowing that I will be one of the youngest in the class and knowing that I didn't have per se direct reports to me and in that leadership team building portion of it, I was feeling a little bit kind of I would say nervous coming into the program. But I remember when I was interviewing for the program, one of the things they mentioned was, you shouldn't see it as a disadvantage, but as an advantage, because what we want to build is a cohort that is diverse in terms of age, diversity of thought, diversity of where you're coming from, where you were born, everything, because you want to make sure that everything is well-rounded. And so I think when I was applying and thinking of it, that was one of my nervous points. But as I talked through the people and as I joined the program, I think it really didn't make much of a difference. I think everybody looks at yourself, like you walk in the door and everybody looks at you the same as they look at everybody. And I thought that was like one of the best feelings I had, because working as an engineer, you don't tend to work with a lot of other women or people that are young per se in like the industry that I was working in. So it was kind of like a self-doubt that I had coming in. But as soon as you walk in the door and the rooms, everybody thinks the same as everybody. So nobody makes a difference just because your age or where you're coming from or experience. And the second one, I think, was time. Because as you mentioned, a lot of us have very high demanding jobs, but we also have families, and you also have a life, and you also have other things going on that you care about, such as, like Lance said, he likes to contribute to the community. And I do too. I love helping organizations that specialize in girls, especially in STEM related programs. And so I had to step back a little bit on that so I could give time to the MBA program. And so I think those were the two main things, just the time and knowing that I will be one of the youngest in the group.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to Sakib.
All right. So I was going to talk about time management as well, but I'll just basically add, I'll just basically add to it, because it's mostly the same thing that she said, or that Nancy said. But one thing is that absolutely did not have. I mean, it does take a lot of time. There's no doubt. If you ask the spouses, they'll be the first to tell you how much time it takes, because they're just basically, by themselves, waiting for you to get done. But I did start enjoying it a lot. And I started learning a lot from it. And I could feel the difference in me almost immediately, because you're really involved in all these simulations, and like you have to meet with your team every week, and you actually learn so much that the difference, starts to show almost immediately. One secret is that you begin enjoying it a little too much, which I'm sure your spouse doesn't want to hear, because they're still waiting for you to come downstairs. So we had a little bit of that where you actually start having fun. So even though time management was a big concern, it started becoming something that I was enjoying. I want to learn more, and I want to talk to these guys and see what they have in mind. Ironically, like Tom Jenkins was in my first group, and if you ask him, we used to spend a lot of time like in our group meetings, and we actually began to enjoy it. So you really do start immersing yourself in the whole program as you put your foot in.
Excellent. Thank you. Tom, you want to wrap this one up?
Super. Yep, absolutely. So, we heard Nancy, and we talked about age being an issue. And I think Lance and Nancy both shared they felt like they were too young. I felt like I was too old. I felt like, man, am I too old to like take on this challenge and invest in this at this point in my life? And is the ROI really there? And, truth be told, I wasn't the oldest in the class, and there were a number of us, I'm going to say 50-ish, maybe 45-ish, 50-ish, 55-ish, somewhere in that range, guys and gals in the class. And, we all gelled, into Nancy and Lance's point. It was really collaborative amongst all of the different age groups and the experiences that were there. I don't think anyone felt as though they were out of place. And I would argue the ROI is there, much of for what Sakib shared. And not only makes you better within your role at work, it makes you a better person. And Sakib and I've had a lot of conversations about that on a very personal level. We talked a little bit about time, and I agree with time. I attended one of these sessions with Mary before I joined the program. And some of the best advice that was delivered during that session that I remember is that, I think the question, Mary, was a little bit different, but it was, what regrets do you have about that you wish you could have gone back and done differently? And it was the feedback was consistent that the MBA members at that point shared they wish they had invested more in the networks and their friendships than they did in pursuing a high path. And my college history was to focus very much so on earning great grades. And I listened to that, and I really had to trust myself moving into this program so that I could create the bandwidth for my family and for my work to really pull through what was most important to me, and allow myself to still live the life that Nancy was talking about. And so that may or may not be a concern that each of you have, but I'd share that if you're very conscious about the choices that you're making, you can balance the workload and generate the results that you're seeking.
Excellent. Thank you. And it really is true that networking piece and the piece of the relationships are so important in this program. So, okay, so I'm going to, for this panelist, I'm skipping ahead a little bit on the questions to make sure that we cover some of the key ones. So there are many aspects to the MBA program. There's the curriculum, the faculty, the residencies in DC and in your case, South America, the executive network, which some of you have touched on, the leadership coaching. For those of you who don't know, there's leadership coaching and career coaching. Can you share any experiences or learning you gained out of any aspects of these programs? Like, where did these aspects really make a difference for you? Oh, we'll start with Sakib.
All right. So, wow, that's a very that's a big question.
Question.
Because there is so much that we can really talk about.
Just pull one or two that really made a difference.
All right. So I'm just going to focus on one, and then I'm sure others are going to cover the rest. The Washington Dc Residency. So we had front row seats to the policymakers for the U.S. government. I mean, that is your think tank. The Brookings Institution is your think tank. That is where all that's where our policymakers are. We had like 4 days behind the scenes, all day in front of them, having one-on-one conversations. We met with so many people, and they're all from the Brookings Institution. The insights that you get. I mean, I ask questions like, so why haven't you raised the interest rates yet? Now, you ask a friend is one thing, but asking the policymaker or the think tank, behind it, that is that's like a phenomenal experience, because you're getting firsthand answers from somebody who's actually responsible for it. So that was absolutely phenomenal. And after I came back to St. Louis after a week there, I felt like I had gone up a whole level, like a whole notch. And I'm going around, proudly putting my, putting my collars up, and I'm saying, hey, I was, these major think tank policymakers. So that was absolutely an amazing experience, Mary.
Excellent. Okay, who next? Oh, I mean, I'm saying who next. I'm going to call on who's next. Tom, you're next. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'll rip it back to my previous answer about feeling like I was too old. I had been in school for probably 20, 25 years. And when I entered the program, I was hoping to remember about 15% of what I'd forgotten that would be extremely useful within the program. And so when you think about the faculty and the coursework that Sakib and the teams referred to, that was super refreshing. I mean, to hit accounting or cost accounting or finance and global finance and those different sessions that, you may have covered in your bachelor's degree or a previous master's degree, to reacquaint yourself with that information, and after having been in an executive role, was super empowering. That was truth be told, and the faculty made themselves available for questions and emails and discussions at whenever it was needed. So that was tremendous. The one thing that I'll share that Mary, you didn't capture in your question, but I think there's tremendous value is, and we've talked about the networks. I mean, the visibility into networks that have a vast array of experiences within different industries, that was super enlightening to hear about how Emerson might think about something, Accenture, banking, Centene, with me being with Cigna. I mean, it was really fascinating to have those discussions with colleagues in a risk-free environment. It was fabulous.
Excellent. Yeah, the faculty and the curriculum are just amazing. So thank you. Nancy?
So the question is about like the experiences in both with faculty, the residencies.
It could be any of the aspects of the program. So you have the residencies, the executive network, the leadership coaching or career coaching, anything that you felt really had an impact on you.
Yeah, I think all of the above. Yeah, I honestly, I could not pick one over the other. I mean, Tom mentioned the faculty being always available for you, and you could email them at any given moment or time to ask anything, and they will be available. The same going to DC was amazing. Getting, like Sakib said, front row seats to policymakers and being able to like make that happen at a level where everybody learns something, I think was amazing. Going to Chile, honestly, I was personally very, very excited about going to a country where my mother tongue is spoken, and just to see that culture down there was amazing. But honestly, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was how well this whole group of people who organize this program and that manage this program are on point for everything. You can think, I mean, we were in the middle of a pandemic. Our course had to be delayed. We were supposed to start in April. We started in September, but all the decisions they were making with the information they had available at the time to keep us safe, to also keep us in the sense of learning and being able to still network in a safe environment where everybody felt like you weren't pushed to be there in person or to be at home. Like you had that option, being able to learn at any moment from home or from the learning groups and in presence, being in there, the faculty being like open to go and teach when everybody's wearing a mask. It's all these things. I honestly admire all the effort that the group in WashU put together for us to make our cohort happen, and not alone just the cohort and the program, but to make those residencies happen. So like going to DC in person and being able to all be there, and then also in Chile to be able to manage that and get us there and back. So I think all of that is admirable, and I think that speaks volumes for the level of class level that you get for this executive program. at WashU.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet how the student affairs group managed that program was pretty amazing. I remember watching it with everything changing, but you guys largely had an in-person program during that 2 years, which was pretty phenomenal during
I
the
agree.
time when you look back on
Completely
it.
agree.
It's really good. Okay, Lance, how about you?
Gosh, I will first of all say ditto to everything that my classmates shared. But I would encourage you all to think about the most important part of the experience that I think I gathered from it, which I think is the most important reason why you would do an executive MBA, is being a leader is not necessarily about how you lead others. It's about how you understand yourself and how you impact others. And so for me, the executive coaching was phenomenal. My coach, Vinay, challenged me every session. There were some sessions I would show up and just say, hey, I'm trying to get this assignment done. He's like, is that your truth? Right. And so he understood that this program was about me telling my truth and being in places and spaces where African-American men traditionally aren't able to lead. And so if I'm going to be in that space, I have to be my authentic self. And I would just encourage all of you to think about the importance of doing an executive MBA and being ready and prepared to spend as much time in the classroom, in group discussion, in reflection of yourself and who you are. I think the surveys that we did really helped set the stage for really productive coaching sessions, but it does require you to be extremely vulnerable as a leader to say, I'm not perfect and I'm continuing to grow and strive, and understanding that leadership is about giving other people space and sharing that understanding to move forward. So I cannot say enough about the leadership component being added throughout the program, from the coaching session and then having the leadership discussions throughout the program versus it being kind of 1 or 2 sessions in the middle. Could not have had a better experience with that part of the program. And I would encourage you also to think about what is your come from place? Why are you really joining? I mean, not because I think we all want to be professionals and impact the world, but is there something personal inside of you that you want to contribute to the world outside of yourself, and really blend those two things together? We're taught traditionally that you have your business life and then your personal life. I think this executive MBA reminded me that I can't separate the Lance Knuckles who's at home and who's serving community from the Lance Knuckles who serves at work. And I would encourage you all to take that journey and really take the plunge and experience this program firsthand, because it will do you good as you continue to move in your professional journey.
Great, Lance, well said. So we have a question in the chat that's somewhat tied into this particular area. If you could have a do-over, would you do your MBA program at the same stage of your career, earlier or later? What suggestions would you have for someone like me who is considering the program to know now is the right time? Who would I
answer?
You want to answer that one?
Yes, it's like running in my mind. So,
okay, go ahead.
So this is really a catch-22, right? Because I wish I had done it, say, about 5 years earlier. I'll be turning 50 now. So maybe if I'd done it at 45, I would have had 5 extra years of experience in this, and I may have done better. At the same time, the maturity that I've gained in the last 5 years in order, to be ready for this is a whole different thing. There's so much stuff, there's so much information going on. That every single year of your experience counts, and it counts in gold. And you're able to utilize that, and you're able to, weigh in. So I would say that the right time for you is when you're ready. You absolutely have to be ready for it, because once it starts, you should really, give it your all, because it's going to need that from you. If you do this program, not for learning everything from it, then it's really a waste for you. For someone like me, in the last 2 years, I'm a different person. I've learned so much from it, but I was also ready for it. So I think the right time is when you're ready.
I would add, I think it's not just, also everybody is at different stages in life. And so for me, I mean, I have two young kids. I also have a high demanding job. I almost always raising my hand for everything. My husband travels constantly. He's out of the house right now for 2 days. So every week he's traveling. I am busy. I have two kids that are constantly going to daycare or school or whatever. So I think there is never a right time. I think if you really want to grow yourself as a person, as a leader, and as a professional, I would say when that time comes, that's the time. For example, for me, I'm young and still was considering different types of programs and different schools. But honestly, when I started speaking with the team at WashU about the MBA program and the timeline and how the flexibility of having the courses once a month in person, giving you that other 3 weeks per se of the month to really work on your own on the things and learn what you need to learn. That actually helped me realize that the earlier the better, because that way my kids won't remember much about me going into school and missing all those times versus like Sakib's or their older kids knowing that they were at school while they were also in high school or something like that. But I think it's just like a valuable decision that you have to say, okay, I want to do this because of the reasons that Sakib provided, right? Is it within your values? Is within your goals for the next future, whatever that future timeline is? It can be 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. It doesn't matter. If you are already thinking about it, I think that's the right time, because once I started thinking about it, maybe like 5 years ago, and I was looking into programs and things like that, and I wasn't sure if I should do it or not. But once I realized that I really wanted to bridge that gap, the sooner I could do it, the better. And when I joined this program in the 20 months that I was in it, like Sakib said, I grew so much just in personally, professionally, and just the maturity level that I reached in terms of the subjects that I was a little weak on, I think helped me propel that bridge of the gap that I wanted to.
Excellent. Who
All
else?
right, Nan.
Go ahead.
Nan, I'll bite. I wish I had done it earlier. But it doesn't mean just because I did it later that it was wrong. I mean, to everybody's point, things happen for a reason. They come along at the right time. I do wish I had done it probably 5 to 6 years ago. And what I'd share with you, I mean, Nancy laid out a lot of the reasons why it's good if you have younger kids. And my daughters are 25, 20, and I have twins that are 16. And, if you look at the glass half full, each of my kids witnessed the importance I placed on an education. And that sets a really nice example for them. And I know a number of my classmates that have that similar sentiment and experience with their families. So there's going to be some pros and cons based upon where you're at in your life. But I'd say, Nancy, I agree with you. If you're thinking about it, it's probably the right time. I wish I had thought about it earlier, but like I shared in the intro, it was not on my radar. I wish it had been.
Excellent. You brought up family, and I remember going to graduation and seeing all of the families supporting all of you and the graduation pictures. That was beautiful. So I think it really is an unbelievable example. Okay, who else? Who hasn't? Lance, I don't think you've shared on this one.
Yeah, so I would agree with my cohort members. But here's a reality that I would encourage as you think about doing the program, is that you don't get through the program alone. Whether you're a single individual and not in a relationship, you'll have family members or friends who will take the journey with you. If you are a seasoned couple, my friend Tom has been married for a long time. That creates opportunities to have challenges as well as having support. Like I mentioned earlier, I got engaged and married within the program. And the two of us, in the pandemic, living in 900 square feet, and us both working professionals, and I'm also in school at the same time. I would say just think about, do you have the support network to help you get through it? Because the journey is, I'm not going to say for the weak, but it's not for those who aren't ready to learn. And I think the learning goes beyond the classroom. It goes into your personal life. And are you willing to keep learning as a human being as you move forward? So whether you're 25 or seasoned fellows like Tom and I in our 50s, I'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. It's just whether or not you're in a place to embrace the uncertainty and vulnerability of not having the answers all the time. And good leadership is about understanding that sometimes you have to say no, and sometimes you pick up the pace and rely on others to get you through to the end. And I think that was one of the things that was really phenomenal about the program, especially in my second group. We had everyone who I think everybody had kids at some stage of life. And we made a commitment that our families were important, that this journey was going to happen because we're going to help each other get to the finish line. And that looked different ways for each individual. And I think just knowing that you're willing to learn and that learning may happen introspectively is the right time, not necessarily based upon a date or if you got the money nestled away or if your company is willing to pay for it. It's really about your willingness to be vulnerable and challenge yourself to keep moving forward and knowing that you won't get through this program by yourself.
Excellent. Really important points you're making. Okay, so we have time for one more question from the audience. Is there anyone that has a question? There isn't anything else in the chat, but if somebody wants to chime in. Give it a minute to see if anybody has anything. Hopefully we've answered all of your questions tonight. Let's see, there's a thought. Thank you so much. So we're getting a lot of thank yous, but nothing else? Okay, so what we'll do is I just would like to ask the panelists to sum up their experience of the MBA program in just a few words. You know, what would you say? Just to give one final your final appreciation for the program, or what would you say to sum it up? Let's start with, let's see, Lance.
Mary, I thought we were doing the round robin thing each time. I feel like I've been in this spot.
I just like you, so I'm picking you first.
Oh my gosh, man. To sum it up shortly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just a few words. Just a few words. Like what was
so Tom, Sakib, and Nancy, I'm gonna try to model, which I probably will fail at, so do better. Man, in a few words, WashU Executive MBA is an introspective experience. I would leave it at that. It's
okay.
An introspective experience.
Excellent. Good. Love that. Okay, Nancy.
I think for me, WashU MBA experience was a very challenging yet rewarding, extremely rewarding experience.
Excellent. Thank you. Sakib?
I would say life-changing. And now I have the ability to see another 5 miles ahead.
Excellent. Thank you. And finally, Tom?
Well, you can tell Sakib and I are good friends because I had life-changing as well. So thank you, Sakib. I'm just going to sum it up in one word. It's enriching. I mean, it will enrich your life. It will enrich your professional life and your personal life.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it. Thank you, guys. Amazing insights and experience of the program that you shared with everybody. I'm going to turn this back over to Carrie for any final words.
Well, thank you all panelists. All of you were wonderful. This was an amazing, amazing talk. I appreciate everything that you shared. I am sure that our folks that were in listening were soaking it all in. And I just can't thank you all enough for your time and your experience and your willingness to give back to the school. That's really all. So I will just wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you again. To anybody out there that would like to talk about how to get started on this MBA journey, I'm your girl, Carrie Donnelly. And I will be emailing all of you. You can't escape. I will find you. So let me know if I can do anything for you. And thank you all.
Excellent.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good
Take
luck.
care. Bye.